Don't worry. I am here.
My Hero Academia Vigilantes episode 13 is out, titled What a Man Takes With Him, the season finale to the first season of My Hero Academia Vigilantes. Of course, we're going to break down the episode, so be sure to Detroit smash that like button and subscribe to the Kidoroki channel so that you won't miss any My Hero Academia Vigilantes content. Now, the episode begins with Pop rewatching the Narufest concert, and surprisingly, the anime cuts out Pop asking about Knuckle because he hasn't been around as much. The anime pretty much skips over the majority of chapter 27, which showed Koichi and the gang taking on a group of perverted themed villains, which they weren't all that necessary to the plot to begin with, but that chapter did show how there weren't any more instant villains showing up, plus one of the villains being a funny reference to the X-Men Last Stand scene where Angel first takes flight. The chapter also featured the departure of Knuckleduster, which does get shown later in the episode, but with that being adapted later, scenes from the other chapters that had Koichi staring at Knuckles' belongings and thinking about how he should go on doing hero work after are adapted slightly differently for the anime, since Knuckles' stuff aren't hung up on the bulletin board and his departure technically didn't really happen yet until we get towards the end of the episode. Some time passes and Koichi is chasing down and trying to stop a rampaging praying mantis villain. The villain is too much for Koichi to handle, and the anime once again cuts out Pop using this opportunity to promote the return of Narufest, because in the manga at this point a significant amount of time had already passed with them handling villains without the help of Knuckle. On top of that, Jubei and Ichimoku are removed from the scene as well. Captain Celebrity shows up and makes quick work of the villain. CC pulls Koichi to the side and lets him know that they need to talk about how he should be doing his hero work in Naruhata. Turns out CC doesn't like the way Koichi does things, since whenever he can't handle a villain, he ends up making it his problem to take care of. Koichi gets into it with CC standing up for himself, since even though what he's saying is true, not everyone is born with powerful quirks. All ordinary citizens can do is help each other the best way that they can, and whenever their power isn't enough, they call in the pros to save them. That's how a quirk-powered society should work. In response, CC wonders why Koichi doesn't play the part of being an ordinary citizen then, if that's the case, because Koichi goes beyond that of an ordinary citizen. Him playing the role of hero just adds on to his workload, and Koichi, understanding, apologizes to Captain Celebrity. Soon after, Makoto shows up to get CC to attend a photo shoot and do interviews. After they leave, Pop tells Koichi that Captain Celebrity was right about them causing him and other heroes trouble with their vigilantism, and they should probably stay away from getting involved with villains. Koichi notes that there have been a lot of strong villains that have been popping up recently, villains who don't transform back to normal even after being knocked out. The villains they have been up against recently are completely different from the trigger victims they used to run into. Now here in the manga, Koichi sees Knuckles' stuff, since by this point he was already done with being a vigilante, but for the anime, Koichi just wonders if he should just start carrying a weapon with him like the way Knuckle and Stendhal did back then. Pop tells him that it isn't his duty to fight villains, and what they do now by calling in for heroes is enough. The anime doesn't adapt the scene right after, where we see the Bat villain chained up, claiming to be the fastest. For another major change to the manga, we see Aizawa, Midnight, and Tsukauchi in a room talking about the next level villains, where in the manga, this whole conversation takes place at Narufest. While this change does make a lot more sense, with the conversation being held privately instead of publicly, this change takes away from nice little character moments like Midnight being in her civilian clothes, showing up to Narufest on her day off because she genuinely enjoys local events, and Aizawa watching over Teruo, letting him enjoy Narufest, planting the seeds of Aizawa slowly transitioning his way into becoming a teacher at UA. Plus the moment of Naomasa thinking Koichi is the vigilante he's been looking for, but realizing that in his notes he has Koichi written down as the crueler and not the crawler, and doesn't try to arrest him for it. Koichi tells them that there is a new type of villain out there that happens to be a variant of the instant villains that popped up a while back. In the case of Teruo, his body structure inside and out underwent a massive transformation in the time between the two times he was arrested. At first, it was believed that his out-of-control quirk had caused the transformation, but upon re-examination, he never changed back, making his new body seemingly semi-permanent. Turns out the blood of Teruo and other villains arrested in the past few months had all contained several times the lethal dose of Trigger. The heroes assume that the overdose of Trigger caused the lasting transformation, but the truth is someone went ahead and artificially enhanced the villains' bodies, making it so that they can withstand higher and higher doses of Trigger. This, of course, meaning that All For One is currently in the process of testing out and gathering information on enhanced bodies, taking on extremely powerful quirks to not only prepare for the quirk Doomsday Theory that Garaki had predicted, but All For One is seemingly still collecting this data for his Nomu project that will eventually lead to Shigaraki one day undergoing this process to handle the power of All For One. Koichi continues to tell Aizawa and Midnight that Teruo and the others had become next level villains after they all went missing for several weeks or months leading up to their next attacks, and they believe that their bodies were remodeled before being heavily dosed with Trigger, essentially making them being groomed to be villains. Midnight believes that something on this scale would mean that there is an organization behind it all. Aizawa notes that if an organization is behind it, what could they be after? Instant villains lose all sense and reason and aren't capable of criminal schemes. Next level villains can't even run and hide after popping up and causing chaos. So while they do damage, even the next level villains feel disposable, meaning that the mastermind behind it all must have some greater goal, which we know that All For One's goal right now is to perfect the Nomu process to gain enough data to create a body that can withstand not only multiple powerful quirks, but to be able to handle the power of All For One and his true goal of stealing one for all. But of course, the heroes don't know that yet. After this, we get an anime-only scene of number 6 tossing up the container holding the last remaining B, letting us know that the B user is going to eventually come back. On Saturday, we see Narufest is kicking off as Pomp is hosting the concert, and we switch over to Ingenium and CC shooting their commercial in celebration of the highway being restored. When going in for a reshoot, the villain number 6, acting as a member of the production, waits to unleash his attack. Back at Narufest, Koichi gets put out on stage as the Crawler, becoming the concert's last-minute special guest since Captain Celebrity couldn't make it. Koichi performs and is a surprisingly good singer. At the shoot, number 6 presses a button that causes a truck to crash through the set to unleash the Bat villain in his next level villain form that references the Batman villain Man-Bat. We get an added scene of CC saving Makoto, giving us that Superman saving Lois moment, and the Bat villain kicks Ingenium to the ground and makes his way to Koichi, as he didn't forget the day Koichi and Knuckle being the ones who beat him months ago. CC tries to chase him down, but the Bat villain is too fast for him as he makes his way to Narufest. Suddenly, the Bat villain, after seeing Koichi, swoops in and snatches Koichi, taking him into the sky. But luckily, Captain Celebrity catches up and quickly knocks out the Bat villain and saves Koichi. At home, Koichi finds Knuckle's Knuckledusters and his mask on top of the table and assumes that Knuckle left them for him to clean. Koichi ends up cleaning them, and in a flashback, we see that after defeating all of the perverted villains, Koichi notes that everyone they went up against were just a bunch of weirdos that had nothing to do with Trigger, and hopefully that meant Trigger isn't in circulation anymore. Knuckle is sure to let him know that the people they are after don't give up so easily, so they have to be ready for Trigger to pop up at any time. Koichi asks Knuckle if he wants to chill at his place for a little, but Knuckle declines since he has business to take care of, and he leaves smiling, knowing he taught Koichi well in the basics of being a hero and will be doing just fine without him. Makoto stops by and realizes that she once again had Miss Knuckle for an interview. But it turns out that she was really looking for Pop, since Pop got a lot more fan mail, and Koichi smiles as he continues to clean Knuckles' punching accessories. At the hospital, Soga is with Tama staying by her side. Tama's arm falls off to the side of the bed, but as Soga fixes her arm, she finally opens her eye and doesn't know who he is, since every time Soga had interacted with her, it was when her body was taken over by Hachisuka. Tama says she can't move her hand and asks where is her dad. Knuckles shows up and taps Soga on the shoulder to let him know that he can leave, and he thanks Soga for being there. Tama asks about her mom, and Knuckles says she had just missed seeing her and she can't see her at the moment. We then find out in a flashback that right after his battle with Hachisuka and saving Tama, the big emergency he was needed for at the hospital was because his wife was dying. We see Knuckle holding his wife, and in the present, Knuckle tells Tama that her mom was glad to hear that she finally came home and that she doesn't have to worry because he is here. Back at Koichi's house, Pop decides to hang a bulletin board in the house for her fan mail. Koichi hangs Knuckles' stuff on it and then starts to hang up a bunch of pictures on it to fill up the board with a bunch of memories they all made. The episode ends with Koichi in narration stating how a person can't always rely on memories. Sometimes he remembers Knuckle being the man of the house in a way, but when he really stops to think back on their time together, Knuckle was only actually around for a few months of that first year of him being the Crawler. But when he would go on to be the Crawler without Knuckle around, it just felt like he was never gone to begin with because of the strong presence he left behind. Still, at the time, Koichi's real fight hadn't begun, but regardless, without realizing it, time keeps on going and the seasons come and go, marking the end of Koichi's first year as the Crawler and Knuckles' time as a vigilante, at least for now. Now, the episode covered a total of about 4 chapters, them being chapters 27, 28, 29, and 30. This was an amazing finale. Not only did it give Knuckle a proper send-off for the time being, but it perfectly set up the next season in Koichi's upcoming battles against next level villains, and of course number 6 taking up that role as the main villain going forward. This season and episode gave us some great insight into a lot of the future things that we see unfold in the main My Hero Academia story in terms of the Nomu and a lot of All for One's plans. This season was amazing and was such a great way to kickstart the adaptation of the prequel to My Hero Academia, which thankfully we already got the announcement that season 2 for Vigilantes is in the works and will be coming out in 2026. Let me know in the comment section below your thoughts on the 13th episode of My Hero Academia Vigilantes. Did you enjoy this season? Let me know everything in the comment section below. With that said, be sure to Detroit smash that like button if you enjoyed the video, and be sure to subscribe to the Kidoki channel with notifications on so that you don't miss any My Hero Academia and My Hero Academia Vigilantes content. And I'll see you all in the next one.